He has a completely different methodology, and it's different than any president, obviously.
Methodology. Do you think he even knows how to spell that word? What it means? Methodology is giving him too much credit, isn't it?
In this video, you're going to see what happens when MAGA arrogance hits a British reality check. Watch Matt Frei absolutely dismantle a Trump sycophant who tries to claim that abandoning NATO and insulting our allies is just a valid methodology. This is humiliating. Let's watch this together, and I'll give you my 2 cents at the end.
Given what Trump has said in the last week, are you embarrassed to be an American?
No, definitely not. But it was clearly a mistake on Thursday. Okay, and it's a shame because it just...
Which one are you referring to? There's so many mistakes.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I would agree with that, but there was, the little trivial things like, Iceland, Greenland, we all make those mistakes. But
what about the extortion and the threat of violence over occupying the land of a fellow NATO member?
Yeah, well, we all knew...
Is that nothing
we
as
all
well?
knew that was just rhetoric, and that's...
Did we know that, though?
Oh, absolutely.
After Venezuela, we can't really be sure.
No, apples and oranges on that one. So, no, the mistake was not being clear that he was referring to certain NATO partners rather than the UK, and that was a big mistake. And I'm not apologizing. I mean, I'm not suggesting that wasn't a complete...
You're talking about the Afghanistan?
Yes, I mean that was
the 457 who died. Defending NATO's interests in Afghanistan, including America's.
No, and by the way, he didn't say...
How can he get that so wrong? I mean, how can you defend a president, any human being, whether he was running a laundrette, let alone the most powerful country in the world, when they make such a fundamental mistake?
Yeah.
Even if you think this stuff to yourself, surely there's a filter that comes down and says, these words will not be pronounced.
Right. Now, he did not say the UK or Great Britain, but that was, again...
but all the others, too. There are other... The Danes, for instance.
The Danes had the highest casualty rate, per capita than, and basically the same as the U.S. And so it was atrocious not to be more clear and not to bring some clarity to the comment. So, the message, I'm sure he had some kind of point there to make, that, and he's been making it for 10 years now, that NATO has to step up, that there has to be more.
But they've been stepping up. You can make that point without insulting your friends.
Agreed. I totally agree. Absolutely, I can agree with that.
But all the other stuff I mentioned in my introduction, what I want to know from you, Greg, is, you seem like a decent chap.
Seem?
Well, you do seem. Okay. Right. But how can you defend someone like Trump, who, if your children used language like that, or your friends used language like that, you would dump them or you would tell them off.
Right.
This is a question of character, of decency.
He's a decent man, but he does make mistakes, and he also has a different style. And so, but the condescension that we've had for 10 years on Trump is one of the reasons he was elected in 24. 73 million people voted for him.
So whatever condescension you might have perceived from our side is nothing compared to the belittling, scathing, seething arrogance that he's showing, his European friends and allies.
He has a completely different methodology, and it's different than any president, obviously.
Methodology. Do you think he even knows how to spell that word? What it means? Methodology is giving him too much credit, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. And I think, look, he's got a different way of accomplishing things. I'm going to have to stop you there. Yeah.
I'm interrupting you too much, and I apologize for that. But I'm so glad you're here. But what has he actually accomplished? Right? Okay, we've increased our defense spending. I think Vladimir Putin had quite a lot to do with that as well.
I'm not taking notes here, Matt, but let's go try to do one at a time. Okay, so the speculation from the I'll say the mainstream media in the U.S. that there would be inflation because of tariffs was wrong. Not only hasn't there been inflation because of tariffs, but also there's actually no evidence that there's ever been inflation from tariffs.
Not yet. Not yet.
And when China and the Europeans have tariffs, there's no inflation. There's deflation in China right now, even though they have the highest tariffs
Greg,
in the
even
world.
On the issue of inflation and trade policy, the fact is that if you are a company and you want to invest in America, are you really going to set up, going to make that long-term investment? Are you going to trust America across the board? Because this guy changes his mind on a dime.
Yeah.
Who trusts your country today? How would you sell brand America other than through fear?
Well, $17 trillion of foreign direct investment is coming into the country. And even when critics of President Trump, like Bloomberg, start to, argue that it's not really 17 trillion, it's only 8 trillion. Well, there was $1 trillion during the Biden years, so I'll take $8 trillion. So those are the outcomes that we're seeing, and so ultimately,
So is it all about money then? So people are still making lots of money. Therefore, all the other stuff, the alliances, all the other political packaging is just for the birds.
The American consumer the American voter is making more money than they did a year ago. They're making $1,000 more in real terms, inflation adjusted.
But what about the rest of the world?
Right,
I mean, I'm not talking about money here. I'm talking about values. I'm talking about politics. I'm talking about war and peace. These other issues.
So we're not talking about money anymore. Okay, so if we're talking war and peace, I would argue there's been a lot more peace thanks to President Trump. And so how he gets there might be different. He threatens. He uses economic coercion.
Where has there been more peace? Just give me one example.
I can start with.
I know he's got 8 wars that he's ended, but give us one.
I can say
Gaza ceasefire.
Ceasefire.
Can I just on that one, just briefly, because I know
Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Was that really Trump? I don't think that was really Trump, was it? And also on the Gaza ceasefire, can I just tell you, because I know a little bit about Gaza. The Gaza ceasefire, Trump negotiated the Gaza ceasefire before he came into office, and the ceasefire was there when he was inaugurated. And then he allowed the Israelis to break it a few months later because not all the hostages were released in one go, which was always part of the deal, that release would be phased. And then another 15,000 people had to get killed before the next ceasefire. And he only did that one because the Israelis were dumb enough to attack Qatar.
But I think we can probably find something that you can criticize the president on besides Gaza. I mean, he stopped the fighting.
President
Trump had a major victory lap on that. I mean, even his critics were, slapping him.
And he did, but he could have. If he'd stuck to the original deal, he would have ended it much earlier. A deal that he broke it.
Yeah, sure. And I'm guessing, again, it's speculation that Russia Ukraine would not have started if Trump was in the White House, and surely.
Well, we don't really know that, do we?
Because look what happened to the.
And now he's handing Ukraine to Vladimir Putin.
Just in the last year, you've seen much more peace thanks to President Trump.
I don't buy that. But what's he going to do with Ukraine?
I have no idea. He's been trying for a year.
Is he going to throw Ukraine under the bus?
The loose cannon here is Putin in that whole thing. Okay, we all. I mean,
Putin has been very consistent. Very consistent. I don't accept a ceasefire. I will carry on fighting. I want all the land.
So what do we do? Do we invade? Do we send troops there? Do we have boots on the ground from European allies? I've not seen that offered yet. So Trump is trying to end this. He's not been successful. Okay, so 1 out of 8 he's not been successful on. So it's a shame, but that's not on President Trump and that's not on Zelensky. It's on Putin.
Do you think the Western alliance is over?
No.
Why?
No, it's improving. In fact,
it's improving.
Okay, speed bump Thursday with some indelicate comments, but
you're making it sound like it's a sort of a burp at a dinner party. I mean, this is consistent stuff over and over again. Trump is basically, insulting his allies and friends with everything he says. Did you listen to the speech in Davos, Greg?
There's, as I said, he's got a different way of doing things, and the outcomes are what's important to him. And if the outcome is 5% of GDP spent on military and defense and security, that's a great outcome.
How about we spend 5% on GDP, but NATO is going to be reshaped as a European alliance, and we say goodbye to America.
I don't know that that's the outcome.
That's where this is heading, right? It will take a long time. It'll be painful.
That's the drama. That's what you're hearing from some people, and I don't think
the Canadians are doing it already. There's a boycott on American consumer goods.
Canadians are irrelevant. Okay,
really? Actually, Mark Carney, their prime minister, gave quite a good speech.
I heard the speech. You got a standing O. Of course, this is like Elizabeth Warren going to Brown and giving a lecture and getting.
No, it's not that. No, that's just. Davos is not that. No. But Davos is not. No, Davos is full of really rich guys, who want to make more money, and even the rich guys who quite like Trump for his deregulation and tax policies are saying, oh my God, this guy's off the wall.
So, what did we actually just watch? It's easy to laugh at the awkwardness of that interview, the stumbling, the refusal to answer basic moral questions, the insane comment about Canada being irrelevant, but we need to look at the darker reality underneath the humiliation. What this surrogate just articulated is the end of the post-World War II order. For 75 years, the safety of the Western world relied on the idea that the United States viewed its allies as partners. What we just heard is a shift to viewing them as vassals. When he says the alliance is improving, what he really means is that Europe is being bullied into submission. When he dismisses threats to NATO as indelicate speed bumps, he is signaling that the era of mutual defense is over. replaced by a transactional mob boss protection racket. This isn't just rude tweets or a different style. This is the United States signaling a retreat from the democratic world stage. And as Matt Frei pointed out, when America steps back, autocrats like Putin step in. Let me know what you think. Is the Western Alliance surviving another 4 years of this methodology? Put your thoughts in the comments. I read them. And if you want more breakdowns like this, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.